February 15th, 1978. A Florida cop pulls over a stolen car, expecting another routine paperwork shuffle. Instead, he finds a ski mask, handcuffs, and the ID of a missing woman. This was supposed to be just another night. It turned out to be the moment a serial killer stumbled into custody. But how many other tragedies revealed themselves only by mistake? Officer David Lee clocked the Volkswagen weaving through the empty Pensacola streets just after 1:30 in the morning. The car's plates did not match the make. Lee radioed in a plate check, standard procedure, nothing unusual. The dispatcher crackled back that the Volkswagen had been reported stolen. Lee flipped on his lights and pulled the car over near Cervantes Street. The driver, a young man in a collared shirt, did not offer a name. Lee asked him to step out. The man hesitated, then bolted into the darkness. Lee gave chase, his boots pounding the pavement, his heart hammering as the suspect ducked behind a restaurant. Lee shouted for him to stop. The man kept running. 2 warning shots rang out, echoing across the lot. Lee tackled the suspect in the gravel, a desperate struggle breaking out as the man tried to grab the officer's gun. After a tense scramble, Lee managed to cuff him. The man was breathing hard, face pressed to the ground, hands trembling. He muttered, "I wish you had killed me." Lee searched him for weapons, then radioed for backup. The suspect was loaded into the back of the cruiser, still refusing to give his real name. At that moment, Lee had no idea he had just captured one of America's most wanted men. The night's routine had shattered, and the story was only beginning. Inside the Pensacola station, Officer Lee began the standard inventory of the Volkswagen. The process, by the book, called for every item to be logged and bagged. From the glove compartment, he pulled out a ski mask and a pair of handcuffs. Next came a stack of credit cards, none in the suspect's name. Tucked in the console, Lee found student IDs from Florida State University. The faces on those cards belonged to young women whose lives had already been splashed across local headlines. Each item was recorded on the property sheet, each name checked against missing persons. The booking citation listed theft, resisting arrest, and possession of stolen property. Still, the man in custody offered nothing beyond a false name. For the families of those students, the news would reopen wounds that had barely begun to heal. In court transcripts, the Ott family described Janice as our light, hiking, laughing with friends. Her absence echoes forever. The evidence collected that night was more than a list of objects. It was a silent record of violence that had torn through homes and futures. The property log would later anchor the prosecution's case, linking the suspect to the Chi Omega murders. Months after the arrest, a Florida jury returned a death sentence. But for those left behind, the loss could not be measured in evidence tags or court verdicts. Each item in that car was a reminder of a life interrupted, a story that would never be finished. At 12:15 a.m., a call came into the Milwaukee Police Dispatch. The voice on the line sounded tense. Glenda Cleveland, a neighbor, reported a young boy stumbling outside her apartment building. She described him as naked, bleeding, and barely able to speak. Dispatch coded it as a welfare check and sent officers Joseph Gabrish and John Balcerzak to the scene. They found the boy sitting on the curb, shivering and dazed, with 2 women, Nicole Childress and Sandra Smith, standing protectively nearby. The boy could not answer their questions. He kept glancing back at the apartment building, eyes wide with fear. Jeffrey Dahmer appeared in the doorway, calm and soft-spoken. He told the officers the boy was his 19-year-old boyfriend, that he'd simply had too much to drink. The officers scanned the scene. No immediate signs of a struggle, no weapons, just a frightened teenager and a man who seemed eager to resolve the situation quietly. Dahmer produced Polaroid photos, snapshots of the boy smiling and posing in the apartment. The officers hesitated, then handed the boy back to Dahmer. On their radios, they joked about the call, dismissing the women's concerns as overreaction. Their official notes listed the incident as a domestic dispute, resolved on scene. Later, Glenda Cleveland called again, pressing for answers. She asked, "Are you sure he's not a child?" The officer's reply was curt. He said, "Ma'am, it's all taken care of. He's with his boyfriend." No further action was taken that night. The officers drove away, leaving the apartment quiet once more. No one realized they had just handed a victim back to one of the most notorious killers in American history. The Polaroids Dahmer handed over that night would later become evidence, not proof of innocence. Each photo captured a boy forced to pose, a silent record of what was happening behind the closed apartment door. For Konarak Sinthasomphone's family, the phone call from police came as a final blow. His brother Anukoni told the court, "Konarak dreamed of college, helping family. Police failure stole his future." No apology could fill the empty chair at their kitchen table, or erase the memory of Glenda Cleveland's desperate calls. She had begged officers to check again, insisting the boy was too young, but her warnings were brushed aside. An internal affairs report would later confirm what the community already knew. Officers Gabrish and Balkerzak failed to follow procedure. They never asked for identification, never checked missing persons. Their notes dismissed the women on the sidewalk as troublemakers. Both officers were suspended, but returned to duty months later. The city settled a lawsuit with the Sinthasomphone family, acknowledging the mistake but never fully explaining how it happened. In court, the evidence from Dahmer's apartment, Polaroids, skulls, personal belongings, spoke for the victims when they could not. The judge sentenced Dahmer to 15 consecutive life terms, but for the families, the verdict was only a formality. The real punishment was the loss they carried every day, and the knowledge that a routine welfare check could have saved lives if anyone had listened. The case forced a reckoning in Milwaukee. Police training manuals were rewritten. Officers were told to treat every call as a crisis, every neighbor's voice as a warning. For some, it came too late. In a quiet Los Angeles lab, a forensic analyst stared at the computer screen. The DNA sample from a decades-old rape kit had just finished uploading into CODIS. Within seconds, the system flagged a familial match. The profile did not point to anyone in the database, but it landed close, so close that it had to be a relative. The analyst double-checked the chain of custody, then called the sheriff's task force. By noon, detectives were tracking down the family tree, narrowing the search to Lonnie Franklin Jr., a neighborhood mechanic with no criminal record. Surveillance teams fanned out, watching Franklin's routine. On June 30th, 2010, SWAT moved in as Franklin took out his trash. He barely looked up before the cuffs snapped shut. The arrest closed a case that had haunted South Los Angeles for 25 years, all because of a single DNA match and a lab tech who refused to let old evidence gather dust. Princess Bertamu's mother still keeps her daughter's graduation photo on the mantle, a reminder of the life cut short in South Los Angeles. In court, the family described Princess as a quiet honor student who loved to dance and dreamed of becoming a nurse. The DNA evidence that finally named her killer also sparked a new controversy. The American Civil Liberties Union, in testimony before California lawmakers in 2011, warned that familial DNA searches risked sweeping up innocent relatives and violating privacy rights. Detectives argued that without these searches, cold cases like Princess's would remain unsolved. The debate played out in policy hearings and courtrooms, with families pleading for justice and advocates urging caution. Lonnie Franklin Jr. received the death sentence, but the question lingered: how far should society go to catch a killer, and what should be protected along the way? Even today, most serial killers are caught not by grand investigations, but by everyday police work and chance. As technology advances, the unexpected still shapes justice. Each routine encounter could be the moment that saves a life, or changes the story forever. What would you have noticed?